Sensei generation was, we were born during the camp days when Japanese Americans were incarcerated during World War II. So we were born within a few years before, during, and after that period. Our parents very much emphasized that we almost disavow the Japanese side of our culture. And as a result, our generation, third generation Japanese Americans, it's actually a rarity when you see a sensei that can speak fluent Japanese. By the same token, we were so Americanized that our heroes would tend to be like John Wayne, right? But somewhere along the line, I think it kind of struck a nerve with some of us that every time we saw a movie, it was like someone like John Wayne was killing people, bombing people, torpedoing people that looked like us. And yet we were Americans. And as a result, we started going to Chambara. In those days, they had maybe half a dozen theaters in the Los Angeles area that played samurai action movies. As a result, our heroes became the samurai, the Nemuri Kyoshiro and Zato Ichi and Kozure Okami and so on and so forth. And as samurai figures, there was a lot of reference to Budo and Bushido, which captivated us. And maybe we over-romanticized the notion, but whatever it was something that became a part that I wanted to pursue, to look into that element of Bushido and how it would apply to us as modern-day Japanese Americans. I started practicing at around 10 or 11 years old. Actually, the reason for me getting involved was I had gone to private school in my early years, and when I started going to public school, the other Japanese American kids, my peers, within a year or two of my age, were all going to Hollywood Judo Dojo, and which serviced our area. And it was like peer pressure. It's like, what, Art? You don't go to Judo? So I started Judo as a result of, it was part of our social, community, cultural involvement, as well as baseball and football and the other things that we did. And so, at the age of 10 or 11, and we would have a dojo full of us from junior high school all the way up to, senior citizens. And Judo was a passion in our lives and personally in my life for actually the rest of my life. I think as I got older in Judo and your body, at least my body, wasn't willing to take the beating anymore, I was very much inclined to want to check out karate as a stand-up martial art. I had, in the military, I had dabbled in boxing as well as competing in Judo, but I think maybe by the time I was in my late 20s, early 30s, I wanted to get into more of a stand-up karate type of martial art. Again, although I've never lost my passion for Judo, my new passion became karate, traditional karate. At our dojo, I tell people that we willingly participate in this odd art. It has, by our choice, we participate in it, and we participate in this cultural martial art. I emphasize aspects of Bushido within this framework, and that framework is that other people may have the Bible, they may have the Quran, they may have other standards that are doctrines that they can live by, some reference point. As a martial artist, perhaps you have some of that, perhaps you don't. But if you don't, Bushido, modern day interpretation of Bushido, can serve as your reference point to how you can be a dignified, civil human being. And again, I emphasize modern day concepts of Bushido. I'm not saying, cut your stomach open or things like that, but modern day that are timeless values, obligation, discipline, respect, loyalty, values like that transcend religion. It's just something that overall are admirable human qualities. So I encourage our people to embrace those aspects of it on the dojo floor and outside of the dojo. A very well-known traditional karate sensei once told me, he said the value that he saw in tournaments and sport karate was simply that it was a way of personally testing your skills with your peers. This has nothing to do with winning or losing, but seeing where you are within the scheme of things. Are you at a level, a standard of excellence that you yourself are happy with or are still striving to achieve? Things like that, and forego all that thinking about like putting a banner or showcase in front of your dojo and calling yourself, the dojo of champions and things like that. I think it's a difficult, thin line to walk. We have, I've seen some of the most incredible displays of sportsmanship and good character on the tournament circuit, and I'm talking about judo, kendo, and karate. On the other hand, I've seen the most shameful displays that I attribute to the sport element, that people get caught up in the passion of competition and winning, and I've seen some people really act badly. And I think, unfortunately, they don't realize that in acting badly, they represent not only themselves, but their sensei, their dojo, their art. And so it's like a student of mine once said, when he got his embroidered black belt, he said, whenever he wears his embroidered belt, he tries harder. He's much more aware of the karate that he trains in because his family name is on his belt. And it's the same thing. We, as practitioners of the martial arts, don't just represent ourselves. We represent everyone that preceded us and all of our seniors, our system, everything. The aspect of how a student acts on the tournament floor, I think is a direct expression of his relationship with his seniors and his sensei. My opinion on that is that, for example, as a traditional practitioner of Matsubayashi Ryu, Matsubayashi Ryu is not known for competing in tournaments at all. But I kind of think differently because I have people that have been such remarkable seniors, like big brothers to me growing up in karate, like Fumio Demura and Takayuki Kubota sensei. And so out of respect to them, I encourage our people, if you don't go to any other tournaments, let's try to support these two venues, and certainly as well as the Nikkei Games. But I always include, as part of our pre-tournament training, I tell our people, whether they're competing in kata or kumite, regardless of what happens, in terms of, even if you think that there's no question that there was an error in scoring and judgment or things like that, that you're participating in an art representing all of the things that I prefaced by saying, it's yourself, your dojo, me, and those that precede me and are my seniors. As a result, my people know going in to a tournament that regardless of the outcome, whether they come out with the gold medal or first place trophy or don't place at all, that they represent themselves with dignity and respect and cast no dark shadow over our art. I say that because I think if more sensei did that in preparation, then there are no surprises on the floor. but I just, and I don't mean to go on and on about this, but when you're an instructor, like you're a sensei, what happens is an oddity in martial arts. We become marriage counselors, we become psychiatrists, social workers, all of this, and yet our training is really, our expertise is in our particular chosen art. But having said that, any senior or head instructor will tell you that people come to you with things not related to martial arts. So we as seniors have a responsibility to guide and interact with students and people that look up to us, to treat them with dignity and try to keep them on a path of an ideal that's livable, not some romanticized fortune cookie proverb about how to live, but we bear an awesome responsibility. So I would say the burden of how a student acts and interacts in a tournament scene is very much the responsibility of the instructor. The Nikkei Games are a celebration within the Japanese American community initially. It's a celebration of our community and the passion that our community has in the area of sports and martial arts. One might wonder, well, what does basketball or volleyball or bowling have to do with Japanese culture? Where indeed the Japanese American culture, not the Japanese culture so much, but the Japanese American culture is very much invested in these areas in terms of recreation and business and other things. And so the passion the Japanese American community has for basketball is unbelievable. They also participate in a large scale in volleyball and bowling and the other sports. But when we come to martial arts has Japanese and Okinawan root. And these martial arts, kendo, judo, karate, more and more have become internationalized. So it's a celebration of Japanese martial arts here more than Japanese American martial arts. And it's a celebration of these arts, the traditional arts, in a venue where this recognition, this celebration of the arts can be held in a quality environment with emphasis on all the finest traditions of Bushido. And of all the Nikkei Games activities, the martial arts is the most international of them all. So it's like a giant goodwill games, and we take a great deal of pride and care and consideration that here we're talking about people from in karate, we're talking about people from different styles and systems within the traditional community. But one thing we try to pass along as the important message here is that we are non-political. We're not biased, or we don't represent an association, nor are we against any association. This is a celebration of this art, the passion of this art that we all pursue. And we want to do it with respect and dignity to the art. I think certainly Nikkei Games is a central point where people can, from all backgrounds of traditional karate, can come in a collective recognition and celebration of our chosen art. But the Nikkei Games is once a year. I think on a daily basis, it's a responsibility of systems and head instructors within these systems and head instructors of dojos to include as part of their regimen not only the punching, kicking, blocking aspects of karate as an art, and by the same token, just strictly randori and judo and things like that, but include as part of the regimen the truest, finest expressions and values of modern-day Bushido without over-romanticizing it. Because Bushido, in and of itself, taken in its most strict terms, has some dark qualities too that don't apply to the 21st century. But I'm talking about the best qualities of Bushido need to be expressed, integrated into the teaching and learning venues early on so that it becomes instilled. Just like you learn how to do nekoashi and zenkuchidachi, that this muscle memory or the character memory should also be emphasized by the finest aspects of modern-day Bushido. I kind of see it as this is Okinawa and Japan's gift to the world. And when I view it that way, I emphasize having a great deal of respect for the roots of our chosen art, but to also recognize that on an international and even then a more personal level, the beauty about karate, for example, is you could take one move and just by tweaking it a little bit, it could change to another move and tweak that. And so there's so many facets to the martial arts that we have the freedom to express. I think that we can do that without expressing disloyalty to our system. I think we can do it if we do it with dignity and respect. We can do it so that there's a brighter future for our chosen art, and that without corrupting the art, we're able to continue to grow, and just to remember that some of these martial arts go back hundreds of years, and just because it was several hundred years ago, by its very nature, things evolve, things change. If you look at films of karate in America in 1955, and then you look at it in 2005, it's almost recognizable in its difference. And there was no corruption as I see it in karate, rather it's been refined. And I think that we should all be aware of that, and we can do that, but again, walk a careful line not to disrespect where our art came from, but recognize that this is an art that we can also personalize if we do it with dignity and respect.